This Writer's Toolbox video is about what I think is possibly the most difficult thing to come up with when writing your essay, and it's your hook. The video is about how to hook your audience. Now, if you've seen this image before, you'll know what an introduction looks like. It consists of three parts: a hook, a bridge, and a thesis statement. And as you can see down the side, they go from vague to more specific as we go down. Now, the purpose of a hook is essentially to grab the reader's attention, to hook them in, so to speak. You can do this with an interesting quote, a question, a shocking statistic, something insightful, an observation perhaps, or even a personal story. So why do we have a hook? Well, the first reason, it sets us apart and it's the first thing our audience reads. Now, think about applying to university, for instance. You're going to be writing an essay to get in. Well, if the person reading the essays has 1,000 to read, it becomes quite boring and monotonous. So if you can catch them and hook them in the first sentence with something really interesting, they're going to stop that monotonous action of just reading next. They're going to stop. They're going to be like, wow, this is interesting. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to examine it a lot more closely. So a hook is really important to have for purposes like that. It also sets the tone of your interesting essay. If your first sentence is like, wow, look, this is going to be interesting, guys, people are more likely to go, okay, well, I'm intrigued. I'm interested already. I'm sure the rest of the essay will be just as interesting. It also encourages your reader to think or feel something, and that's important. When we care about something that we either think or feel an emotional connection to, we're going to pay a lot more attention to it and be a lot more invested when reading it. And sneaky little trick, it introduces your topic without explicitly introducing it. So I can tell from the very first sentence roughly what your essay will be about. Now, when looking at how to do hooks, the novel we're going to keep in mind will be William Golding's Lord of the Flies, and as always we need to understand context. So the characters of Lord of the Flies are a group of British schoolchildren. They're led at the beginning by Ralph. He's mostly a good guy, can be a bit of a bully sometimes, but he's the protagonist. Jack is the antagonist, and he is a lot more violent. The setting is during a fictional World War III on a deserted island. Basically, they're in England. Nuclear bomb is going to go off, so they get evacuated. Plane gets shot down, they land on an island. The story is about them, these boys who are stranded on this island, and they make a little society. They have a system of organisation with rules, but without any adults there, the children eventually become super violent and brutal and hurt one another. It's important to consider the author, William Golding, was a Navy officer who fought in World War II, famously fought at D-Day. So it's likely he saw the violence that mankind is capable of. He's actually famously quoted for saying, a man produces violence like a bee produces honey, or a man produces evil. He also was a school teacher, so he saw kids bully one another and admits to being a bully himself. Now, the first type of hook is a quote. I'm going to pretend that this is my thesis statement. Through three central characters, Ralph, Jack and Roger, William Golding presents the message that evil is inherent in mankind. What things could I link my hook to? Well, William Golding, obviously the author. The evil of mankind, because that is what the message I'm presenting is. Human nature, which is linked to that. World War II. So a war in which William Golding fought. Violence. Now the first quote, as I said, William Golding, author of Lord of the Flies, once said, man produces evil as a bee produces honey. That's an interesting quote. It makes you think and feel. And it's linked to the story because it's about evil, and it was said by William Golding. I could even quote from the book. In his novel, Lord of the Flies, William Golding shows his thoughts on human nature through writing, maybe there is a beast, maybe it's only us. So I could even quote the novel. Now, it's important to say that this isn't evidence, okay? I'm not citing it, it's not evidence, it's just to make the reader think or feel before I present them with my thesis statement. Or I could even quote another person. I've quoted here Joseph Conrad, who is a famous Polish author who wrote the book Heart of Darkness. And in that book he wrote, the belief in supernatural source of evil is not necessary. Men alone are quite capable of every wickedness. Again, this links to the message I'm presenting, my central claim, that evil is inherent in mankind, and William Golding presents this. Now, it's important when we quote people that we say who they are. So Joseph Conrad is a famous author of Heart of Darkness. If I was to quote, say, Barack Obama, I'd write he was the president. If I was to quote Albert Einstein, I'd say, renowned scientist. It's important to do this because it immediately says, like, look, I'm quoting someone who's very important, who's very trustworthy, and because of that, you should believe me as well. If you're quoting the author, you can quote from the novel or something else they've said that's related to the thesis statement. The next type of hook then is a shocking statistic. Well, again, I need to think what my central claim is. Golding presents message that evil is inherent in mankind. Okay, I've got the things: Golding, evil in mankind, human nature, World War II, and violence. What statistics can I find related to those things? Well, what about casualties for the D-Day landings in World War II, a battle in which Lord of the Flies author William Golding fought, are estimated between 10 to 19,000. Shocking statistic relates to World War II and William Golding. And obviously because of the war and, violence as well. The violence of World War II is revealed through the shocking fact that 1.5 million children lost their lives in the Holocaust. Well, Lord of the Flies is about children. It's also about violence, and it has links to World War II because the author fought in World War II. Final statistic then, the evils of mankind can be demonstrated through the fact that in 2007, the global burden of disease estimated that 400,000 were intentionally murdered worldwide. Wow, big number, lots of people killed. I've even used the word the evils of mankind, which is similar to what I've written in my thesis statement, so I've kind of introduced my topic without saying it. The next type of hook is an inciting thought, or to incite thought or imagination, to make your reader think or feel something. So I could say, imagine storming the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, facing German machine guns from trenches on the hills as they shoot all of those fighting alongside you. That was what happened to William Golding, author of Lord of the Flies. So I'm making the reader think about seeing the violence on D-Day, which William Golding saw himself. Picture yourself and your high school class stranded on a deserted island with no immediate hope of rescue and limited resources. How long would it be before things descended into savagery? That should be a question. This is the plot of William Golding's Lord of the Flies. Again, I'm making the reader think something and imagine something, causing them to be more invested in my essay. The next type of quote is an insight or an observation, something I've seen and find insightful. So after people were exposed to the horrors of World War II, their opinion of human nature changed drastically. I can link this to William Golding quite nicely. World War II is considered by many to be the most violent event in modern history. Again, I can link this into violence, the violence of the characters, and the central message William Golding presents in Lord of the Flies, and World War II I can link to William Golding. Whether or not humans are inherently good or evil is an age-old topic of debate. Again, it's an insight that I found, and it's something that other readers will find quite interesting, that they would have probably seen something similar. Little checklist for your hooks. Have you selected an interesting hook? Would other readers find it interesting? Is your hook the first sentence of your introduction? If you've quoted in your hook, have you introduced the person that you're quoting to appear more trustworthy to your readers? And does your hook introduce the topic of your essay without necessarily saying it? Thanks for watching, guys.